Is Trump mentally unfit to be president? That is an awkward question, but it's one that's being asked on every major news network in America.
President Trump's fitness for office is now the top story in the country.
Reports suggest that even Trump's advisors are worried about it.
Everyone around the president questions his intelligence and fitness for office.
100% of the people around him.
Concerns have gotten so bad that Trump agreed to be screened for dementia as part of his last health exam. None of this has to do with Trump's political positions. They have to do with his ability to understand the world around him and make good decisions.
Everybody wants to know, is this president of sound mind?
And if talking about this kind of thing makes you uncomfortable, wait till you see how much it's stressing out actual mental health experts.
In a series of tweets, the president insisted that he is like really smart and a very stable genius.
Last October, a group of 27 mental health experts published this book, The Dangerous Case of Donald Trump. In it, they warned that Trump's behavior shows him to be dangerously unstable, describing him as a pathological narcissist who's delusional, suffers from paranoid ideation, lacks conscience and empathy, and exhibits a host of destructive and dangerous psychiatric symptoms. Yeah, it's rough. 2 months after its publishing, the book's editor met with 12 US senators to talk about Trump's mental fitness. That editor's name?
It's Dr. Bandy Lee. I am a forensic psychiatrist at Yale School of Medicine and an internationally recognized expert on violence.
Since the book came out, Dr. Lee has become kind of the face of mental health experts warning about Trump.
We express our consensus view that Mr. Trump is a danger to national and international security. Some of the psychological signs are impulsivity, recklessness, paranoid reactions, having a loose grip on reality, lacking empathy, having rage reactions. All of these are highly associated with violence.
One thing I notice is that she starts almost every interview about Trump by saying this.
I'd like to make clear that I speak for myself and not representing the views of Yale University.
She did it in our interview too.
I would like to make clear that I'm speaking on
That's because what Dr. Lee and her colleagues are doing, discussing the mental health of a politician who isn't their patient, is pretty controversial. And to understand why, we have to go back to 1964. Don't tune out, I'll make this quick. Back then, Republican Senator Barry Goldwater was running for president. He was a far-right candidate who talked openly about wanting to use nuclear weapons and was endorsed by the KKK. I know, time is a flat circle. In response to Goldwater's candidacy, Fact Magazine published this piece, in which over 1,000 psychiatrists argued that he was psychologically unfit to be president. Goldwater lost the election, but he sued the magazine's publisher for libel and won, causing the magazine to shut down. In response, the American Psychiatric Association created this guideline, which states that when it comes to public figures, it is unethical for a psychiatrist to offer a professional opinion unless they've conducted an examination on that person. They called it
the Goldwater Rule.
Well, I was gonna say it, but yeah, the Goldwater Rule. Which brings us back to this book. Lee and her colleagues argued that they're not violating the Goldwater Rule because they're not diagnosing Trump.
We're not interested in making a diagnosis. A diagnosis has nothing to do with danger.
They're assessing how dangerous he might be based on his public behavior.
Most of the information that you get about dangerousness comes from observation of their behavior, watching their interactions with people, assessing them in real situations, reports of how they respond, objective signs that we can still evaluate even if it's not enough to make a diagnosis.
But in March, the APA expanded the Goldwater Rule, clarifying that rendering any professional opinion about a public figure's affect, behavior, speech, or other presentation is unethical. In other words, unless Trump agrees to a full mental health screening, never gonna happen. Tons of psychiatrists are basically barred from commenting on his mental health.
And that is very alarming to me. Many people call it a gag rule.
Gag rule, I'm into it.
You would be.
That gag rule has a big impact on how the media talks about Trump's mental fitness. Lee worries that if they can't talk to mental health experts, journalists are more likely to normalize Trump's abnormal behavior.
Most people are not used to seeing impaired individuals day in and day out, so they will interpret signs as simple variations of the normal.
It's tough to grapple with the possibility that the person in charge of our nuclear arsenal might be deeply unstable.
The magnitude of the threat is so great that the mind's defense will lead one to minimizing it and denying it.
So instead, our brains look for other explanations for Trump's behavior.
So I want to believe he's just dishonest, not delusional.
Trump peddles conspiracy theories about Obama's birth certificate, and he's just playing to his base.
Is there some strategy in bringing up the Obama birth certificate thing again?
Trump is not delusional. He's being very politically savvy.
Which should be evident evidence of a serious emergency gets downplayed as just Trump being Trump.
Donald Trump's a different type of guy. I mean, he operates differently. That difference has made him very successful.
One of Lee's colleagues has a great name for this phenomenon. He calls it malignant normality. Ooh. I know, it's a great drag name. The result is that journalists end up missing big danger signs, signs that mental health experts could catch.
Pundits will simply say that's just Trump being Trump, or it's tough talk. One crucial contribution that mental health professionals can make is to distinguish between what is normal and what is malignantly not.
But the bigger problem with the APA's gag order is that it surrenders debates about Trump's mental fitness to non-experts.
Isn't it remarkable that we're talking about the president's mental state?
To political commentators or partisan pundits who actually aren't qualified to talk about this.
I'm not a doctor, but I can tell you what I see and hear.
I'm not a doctor, but I can see that he is not the sharp mind that he was.
I'm not a doctor, but his behavior is erratic.
To me, that's classic narcissism. I'm not a doctor, but...
Leaving mental health issues to pundits, non-professionals, can keep the public in the dark and keep them confused.
These discussions can quickly become train wrecks, where mental fitness is used as a weapon to smear political opponents.
So many of the traits of a sociopath this man is displaying.
I can't explain this crazy behavior, but I can call it crazy.
You saw it during the Obama years, when Fox News regularly made wild accusations about Obama's mental state.
We all know that Obama's a narcissist, but this is bordering on the pathological.
He doesn't seem to have empathy or feelings for Americans.
He's certainly unfit to be president.
And Lee worries that this kind of coverage trivializes real concerns about Trump's mental fitness, reducing them to just another talking point for pundits to argue about.
As this conversation escalates, both sides sort of retreating to their corners.
The more that mental fitness sounds like a left-wing talking point, the harder it is to take it seriously.
But now say, oh, well, look, he seems unhinged. It does seem like, you're not willing to accept the political reality that you are living with.
To accept that it is simply a political issue or a partisan issue is an attempt to normalize the discourse, your ideology versus mine.
No one's a doctor tonight that I've seen and somehow say because you don't like what he said tonight in his speech, that he's somehow unfit to be commander-in-chief. That is the most ridiculous.
There's been plenty. Done. Hey, everybody, stop.
The original goal of the Goldwater Rule was to help prevent mental health from being politicized. But if the last few months have shown anything, it's that silencing mental health experts does the opposite.
Politicization is almost inevitable without expert input. Mental health expertise, just like medical expertise, is neutral on all those grounds.
Trump has made questions about his mental fitness unavoidable. What remains to be seen is whether actual experts will be allowed to answer them.